My name is Ethan, I'm 32, and at my own family's Thanksgiving dinner, they voted me out of the family. Before I tell you how a single folder made my sister scream in horror, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The air in my parents' dining room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Not that you'd need one. The tension was doing all the cutting. Across the table, my sister, Rachel, the golden child, stood up. She held a wineglass like it was a gavel. "We've discussed this," she announced, her voice dripping with fake solemnity. "And we've made a decision. We voted, and Ethan, you're not family anymore." My brother-in-law, Greg, started clapping slowly. Then my mother, Linda, joined in, a weak, fluttering applause. My father, Tom, just stared at his turkey, but he was nodding. They all were. Cheering. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just let out a soft, low laugh. It startled them. "Okay," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Then you won't need this." I reached into my jacket, pulled out a thick, manila folder, and placed it on the center of the table with a soft thud. It slid to a stop right in front of Rachel's plate. She looked at it, then at me, her brow furrowed in confusion. She snatched it, flipped it open. Her smug smile froze. Her face went from tan to a ghostly white. It wasn't a scream, not at first. It was a sharp, choked gasp, like she'd been punched in the gut. The sound of air being stolen from her lungs. As I drove over there, I should have known this was coming. The chill had started 3 months ago with a single phone call. Rachel asking me to co-sign a loan for her new spa venture. It was a lot of money. For the first time in my life, I said no. The silence on the other end of the line was colder than any winter in Ohio. After that, I was ghosted. Kicked out of the family group chat. Saw pictures on social media of barbecues I wasn't invited to. It hurt. Of course, it hurt. Driving through the familiar suburban streets, the past played out in my head like a movie I couldn't turn off. I remembered being 22, eating instant ramen for dinner every night for a month so I could transfer $12,000 to Rachel for her emergency cosmetic dental work. I remember her beaming smile in the photo she sent, a smile I had paid for while I was struggling to make rent. I remembered the calls from my mom, Linda, crying about credit card debt. I paid it. I remembered Greg's failed startup idea, the one I poured $20,000 into. Gone. Over 10 years, it all added up. I knew the number because I had finally forced myself to calculate it. It was a number that made me feel sick. $85,000. Not 1 cent was ever paid back. Not one thank you felt genuine. But the real turning point, the moment the quiet compliance inside me finally died, wasn't about the money. It was a text message. 2 months ago, my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. I opened it. Just have to sweet-talk him a little. The spineless cash cow will pay up. A second later, the message vanished. A new one appeared. Sorry, wrong person. But I saw it. Spineless cash cow. That's what I was to them. That text broke something in me. For days, I walked around in a fog. Finally, I called my best friend, David. We met for coffee, and I must have looked like a ghost because the first thing he said was, "What did they do now?" I showed him the screenshot I'd taken of the text before Rachel deleted it. He just shook his head. "They're not family, Ethan," he said, his voice firm. "They're parasites. You need to protect yourself. Not for revenge. For your own sanity. Document everything." So I did. I opened a shoebox and started digging. Old bank statements, credit card bills, emails. It wasn't about planning a war. At first, it was just about facing the truth myself. I needed to see it all in black and white. And the more I dug, the sicker I felt. That's when I found the thing with the hotel. I was going through credit card statements for a trip to Miami I'd paid for Rachel's emergency business conference. The charge was almost double what she'd told me. On a whim, I called the hotel. I just wanted to query the charge. I explained I was the cardholder and asked for a breakdown of the folio. The clerk was helpful, rattling off room service, minibar, and then he said it. And then there's the spa package for the second guest, a Ms. Jess. My blood ran cold. Jess. I didn't know anyone named Jess. It was a small detail, but it felt wrong. I printed the statement. I put it in the folder with everything else. When the folder was full, I felt a strange sense of calm. I knew I couldn't keep living like this. I made an appointment with a lawyer, just for a consultation. She told me what I needed to do to untangle myself legally. She said, "Evidence is your only shield, Ethan." So here I was, just before walking into that Thanksgiving dinner, sitting in my car outside their house. The folder was on the passenger seat. It felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I pulled out my phone and looked at the lock screen. It was a picture of me and my niece, Mia, Rachel's 8-year-old daughter. She was on my shoulders at the zoo, and we were both laughing, completely happy. She was the one good, pure thing in all of this. She was the reason I'd put up with it for so long, the reason I kept writing checks. I knew walking in there with that folder meant losing her. The thought was a physical pain in my chest. This was the real price of my freedom. I took a deep breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to do it. For me. I turned off my phone, grabbed the folder, and walked to the front door. Back at the table, the silence after Rachel's gasp was deafening. Greg snatched the folder from her. "What is this, Ethan? Some kind of joke?" he sneered. Then he saw the first page. It was a simple spreadsheet, meticulously organized by date, recipient, and amount. At the bottom, in bold red letters, was the total, $85,420. My dad, Tom, who had been studying his plate, finally looked up. His face was beet red. My mom went pale. "This is a private family matter," she stammered. "It stopped being private when you started cheering," I said calmly. I flipped the page for them. There it was. The screenshot of the text message. "Spineless cash cow." Rachel just stared at it, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. She started, but no words came out. I wasn't finished. I pointed to the last document, the hotel bill from Miami. "I just had one question about this trip I paid for," I said, looking directly at Greg. "Who's Jess?" Greg's head snapped toward Rachel. The sneer was gone, replaced by a dark, dangerous confusion. "Yeah, Rachel," he growled, his voice low. "Who the hell is Jess?" The united front shattered. Suddenly, I wasn't the enemy anymore. They were turning on each other. "You're making a scene, Ethan," my mother pleaded, her voice cracking. "You're ruining Thanksgiving. What will people think?" "I'm not ruining it, Mom," I said, and for the first time, my voice was filled with a strength I didn't know I had. "I'm just turning on the lights. So everyone can see it was already broken." I stood up. I felt strangely light. "My lawyer filed the paperwork this morning," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "The power of attorney you had me sign is revoked. I've removed myself as your emergency contact. All of it. It's done." Rachel looked up, tears streaming down her face now. "But, we're family," she sobbed. I looked at her, at all of them, one last time. There was no anger left. Just a vast, empty sadness. "No, Rachel. We're not," I said. "You said it yourself. You voted." And then I turned around and walked out the front door. I didn't run. I didn't look back. I just walked into the cool November air, got in my car, and drove away. That was 6 months ago. The first few weeks were a storm of calls and texts. Voicemails from my mom, alternating between guilt-tripping and begging. Angry texts from Greg about the divorce proceedings. A single, pathetic message from Rachel saying she was sorry for how things went down. I blocked them all. I moved to a new city, got a new job. I have a small apartment that's all mine, filled with my own things. It's quiet. At first, the quiet was deafening. Now, it's peaceful. I have friends. Real friends. David and I have a standing dinner appointment every Friday. We talk about work, about life, about everything and nothing. It's a family I'm choosing, one built on respect, not obligation. It's not perfect. Healing isn't a straight line. The other day, I was in the park and saw a man with his young niece on the swings. He was pushing her higher and higher, and her laughter echoed through the air. I felt a sharp pang in my chest. I miss Mia. I probably always will. Peace comes with scars. This morning, I was drinking coffee from a new mug. It's a plain white mug. On the side, in simple black letters, it just says Ethan. Not world's best uncle. Not some cheesy quote. Just my name. I took a sip and looked out my window at the city. I don't feel anger anymore. I don't even feel pity. I just feel acceptance. I'm no longer mourning a family I lost. I'm accepting that the family I always wanted never really existed in the first place. And by letting go of that ghost, I finally gave myself the chance to live. I'm free. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to share, but I felt like I had to. My question for you all is this: have you ever had to make a hard choice to protect your own peace, even if it meant losing people you loved? Let me know your stories in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. It really helps. Thanks again for watching.